All right, welcome to another episode of the Success Agent Podcast, where this is where we interview business owners, team leaders, CEOs, CFOs, and just a lot of really cool people. And today we have Neal Bawa, and he is a former Silicon Valley tech executive turned data scientist of commercial real estate. As the CEO and founder of Grow Capitus and Mission 10K, he manages a portfolio of over 4,400 units valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. Known as the mad scientist of multifamily, Neal uses heavy data analytics rather than gut feel to target high growth markets and spearhead a revolution to build 10,000 affordable rental homes across middle America. Neal, welcome.
Thanks for having me on the show. Very excited to be here. It's a rather interesting time to be talking about real estate.
Yes, absolutely. And, especially in the multifamily space. So tell us a little bit how you went from being in the tech field going to full on real estate, and then now real estate and technology are kind of blending together, and just so tell us a little about that.
Yeah. I'm a recovering technologist, right? So computer science degree. I've had data science is my area of interest, so I'm a amateur data scientist. And I have run a tech slash healthcare education company from 1999 to 2015. Wasn't a startup, had hundreds of employees. And, I had the big fat tech salary. I was living in Taxifornia. And so, like most people that have the big fat tech salary in Taxifornia, I got into real estate for depreciation reasons, nothing to do with a new career, hadn't even thought about investors. And most people get into real estate by doing a fix and flip or, a single family rental. I got into real estate backwards when the senior partner in my company asked for my help to build a custom campus from scratch in 2003 for my tech and healthcare company. And that was an incredible experience. Made about 1,000 mistakes. One of my mistakes cost us $800,000, but there were no investors involved. There was no bank involved. It was just our own cash for the company. And when it was done, it gave us such an unfair advantage that our sales increased by 40 or 50%. And more importantly for me, the depreciation meant that I was making more money and keeping more money. And that opened my eyes to the incredible cheat code benefits of depreciation and started my real estate journey. We ended up building 7 more campuses, and I ended up saving a lot of money. And so by the time that I had a ton of cash saved up, it was 2009. So my timing was absolutely incredible for single family. I didn't start multifamily until 2013. But for those 4 years, I was both buying tons of single family homes, dozens, and at the same time was writing up what has now become Location Magic, which has been used by more than 50,000 people, but essentially writing up a way to look at real estate from a data scientist's perspective.
That's a lot to unpack there. But that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't go that big. I went from single family to like duplexes to like fourplexes. I don't have anything bigger than that because we look at them a lot. We just can't get the numbers to work.
Mhm.
And then maybe if I came at it from a more of a data scientist perspective, I could probably find more lucrative areas. We just wanted to invest in our backyard versus investing in different places around the U.S. And the older I get, the more risk tolerance I have, and so I'm a little bit more, inclined to just find deals rather than, wanting to be so hands on, you know. So tell me about this mad scientist of multifamily. How did you get that nickname?
So in 2009, I was at a family party, and I started telling people that I'd been doing a lot of research on real estate because remember, depreciation was helping me make money and put away money. And I was basically mining data from public websites like the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, Redfin, whatever was around back then. And I was putting that into a statistical analysis software and asking it a crazy question, like completely insane question. And the question was, is this the best time to invest in real estate in 100 years? Now, in 2009, you'd think that that would be the stupidest question to ask because the sky was falling and it was a horrible time. Everyone thought real estate was the worst thing to invest in. And so somehow this mad guy thinks that, he's trying to find the answer to this question. And most people are like, why would you even ask a question like that? And my answer was, well, I'm a contrarian, kind of like Warren Buffett. I like buying things when they're cheap, but I also don't want to be dumb. I don't know anything about real estate. I want to use data to see if there's some sort of reason to buy real estate in 2009. I have money, right? I don't want to have any investors. And so as I started putting the data into the statistical analysis software and looking at, data I had found over the last 100 years, the answer appeared to be yes, this is the greatest time basically in modern history to buy real estate. So I mentioned that to one of my family members at a party in 2009. A bunch of people gathered around me. I explained everything. I was feeling really awesome. I thought that, these people are going to give me pats on the backs. What actually ended up happening is that they banned me from the parties because they thought I would infect other young men in the family with my overly stupid ideas about real estate. And that pissed me off. I felt like, look, I was trying to use data to prove a point. And so I was like, I'm going to go find other people that think like me, that are data driven, that are numbers driven. And so I was running this company. We had this beautiful campus that I'd built in 2003, and it had massive classrooms and conference rooms, huge, like you could fit 100 people. And I was like, I'm going to open the United States' first data science focused real estate meetup. So this is not a real estate meetup, it's a data science focused real estate meetup where we basically talk about all the different data and comparing cities and comparing asset classes and stuff like that. And I gave it some nerdy name, and I remember sometime in 2009 when it opened for the first time, there were only 4 people that showed up. But this is Silicon Valley. One guy was from HP, one was from LinkedIn, one was from Apple. These people were all data scientists. I was an amateur, they were professionals. And so I would basically, in that first meetup, sit down and explain to them what I was doing, and they were really happy. They were really blown away. They were like, holy crap. I mean, we're professionals and we really like what you're doing. And then so I was like, okay, could you just poke holes in my theory? Because I'm probably wrong. Everyone says this is the worst time in 100 years to buy real estate. My data says it's the best time. And so they sat down, they tried to poke holes in it, and eventually couldn't poke holes in it. And they were like, no, you could be right. And so all of them admitted that they were busy with their day jobs in some tech company, and they hadn't really seen what I was seeing. And they were fascinated and interested and would want to help me to extend it further because I didn't have a lot of time. And so I was like, okay, let's make this meetup a monthly thing. So the next time 10 people showed up, and me and the other 3 guys sort of co-presented our findings. And people really liked it. I mean, we're in Silicon Valley. You throw a rock, it's going to bounce off a programmer and hit another programmer, right? So we had a whole bunch of nerds and geeks that were interested in this kind of stuff. And nerds and geeks had lots of money because we all have big fat tech salaries. And so the meetup grew, JP. By 2009, I had basically come up with my first premise, my first concept and idea based on the data. And based on that, I had started buying in a city called Madera, California, 144 miles from the Bay Area. So long drive, 2.5 hours, but I'd started buying there. And the Apple guy, he was much richer than I am. And he was basically buying dozens and dozens of properties every month. I was buying 1 a month. And more and more people started hearing about this, and they would, the meetup became pretty famous. And before we knew it, there were like 70, 80, 90 people attending our meetup. So it was pretty awesome. Wow. And people are like, what are you pitching? And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, what's your product? I don't have a product. What's your service? I don't have a service. They're like, what the heck are you doing here? It's like, well, we built something cool and we wanted the world to know it. And they're like, so you're like kind of the Wikipedia of real estate? And we're like, yeah, maybe the Wikipedia of real estate data, not really all of real estate. We don't know anything about real estate, but real estate data we know something about. And so that kind of resonated with us, that we wanted to be the Wikipedia of real estate, because Wikipedia doesn't have a business model. It's not trying to sell you anything. It's trying to give knowledge, and that's what we were trying to do. All of us had full-time jobs. I mean, nobody was interested in creating a business or a .com. People would suggest that all the time, and we'd be like, no, look, we got other fish to fry. And so what happened though is, because this meetup, 70, 80 people are coming, and people are realizing that this meetup was pretty awesome because there was no pitching allowed. And no real estate guys, no, sharky real estate guys were allowed in. And so one of those people must have told a conference organizer. So I started getting phone calls from conferences saying, hey, you're that nerdy guy that has this thing called Location Magic, which basically ranks cities. Yes. Well, would you come and teach it at our conference? And I'm like, I can't afford to buy conference tickets. Oh no, we're going to pay for your conference. We'll pay for your hotel room as well. We'll pay for your flight. And I'm like, really? You do that? It's like, yeah, we have lots of sort of shady real estate guys that stand up on stage and pitch stuff. So we wanted to have a token nerdy guy that doesn't have anything to pitch, doesn't have any investors, doesn't have any product or service. And that would give us credibility. So I'm like, okay. So I would go and teach this thing. And I remember going to Provo, Utah, and they put it on the web. And for whatever reason, Google, indexed that YouTube link. And before I knew it, I had 100,000 people that had watched the 45-minute presentation in Provo. And so now I started getting calls from a whole bunch of conference organizers. And at one of the conferences, as I was walking up to the stage, the conference organizer basically on his own said, and well, please welcome the mad scientist of multifamily. Because by that time I was buying, multifamily properties like you, 4 units, not 200 plus units. But that was to him multifamily. 4 units was multifamily to him. So he said, mad scientist multifamily. And for a second I was offended. And then I was like, I kind of like that. Like, I may not be very mad, but I'm definitely the scientist. And the mad sounds cooler and funnier than just scientist and multifamily, which is just not catchy enough. So I sort of adopted it. And except for the hair, I don't have the mad science hair or the Doc Brown kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But in many ways, I'm like that. Like right now, I vibe code 4 hours a day. 4 hours a day, right? I watch videos in the morning from 6 to 8. I write stuff down, and then in the evening, when I finish my work around 4, from 4 to 8, I vibe code. I might go away and exercise, but I come back and vibe code again, and that's that mad part of me. Right? That is like, okay, this is amazing, and I need to enjoy it. So I'm absolutely obsessed with AI. Obviously, AI didn't exist back then. So I was basically just, using statistical analysis and data and things like that. So our meetup grew, got to 2013. I had my exit, the company was sold. I had a multi-million-dollar exit, went to my CPA and said, how do I knock my taxes down? And they said, buy multifamily. So I said, okay, so I should buy one multifamily. They said, no, that's not going to get rid of your taxes. So I said, what should I do? They said, there's this thing called syndication, where you gather money from lots and lots of different people. You put some of your own money in, and as a GP, you get more depreciation than you would normally get. So that way you spread your money amongst a bunch of properties and become the general partner of them and manage them. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. So I found a property, and I told my database that I'm going to go buy this property, and if anybody wants to join me, they're welcome to, and I would like that. I thought maybe I'd get, 200, 300,000 from this database that we had built, this meetup database with, thousands of people in it. In 4 hours, the entire subscription was sold out, $3.7 million. Because people had been following us for 5 years, but they knew that we had nothing to pitch, that we were not professionals. We basically were a bunch of tech geeks, and they liked that, right? They liked that because it made them less suspicious about our motives. And so that property happened, and then people came back to me and said, "What, do you have any others?" And I'm like, "No. Why would I have any others?" Well, we sort of like investing with you. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll buy another one. I still had some taxes to defer. We bought another one. That one got sold out. And then I basically started thinking of it as a career because, my company was sold. I was still working there. I had a golden parachute. It was a 2-year golden parachute. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life after this. And while I had plenty of money, I didn't have enough money to just retire, and I was too young to retire. I was just barely 40s. So I was like, maybe I would do this real estate thing. So I started investing money into marketing and infrastructure and management and midline operations, and sort of grew that as a company. And here we are today in 2026. We have 1,350 investors, all accredited, um, 25 projects, 2,000 plus units. Current, at peak we had a valuation of $1 billion. Currently, it's about 436 million because we've sold a bunch of properties, and of course, values in multifamily have come down by 20, 30%. So, sort of accidentally ended up here.
That's awesome. I mean, just looking at you've just had so many things that just lined up just by happenstance, just doing what you love to do. That's amazing. So let's talk about the vibe coding because I'm into that now too. And and so what's interesting is that the playing field for tech and data and a lot of these things have now kind of come to it's more accessible for folks because you can speak to these language models in plain language. And so how does that affected your data driven philosophy when it comes to multifamily and also with the cities that you're choosing along with that?
Well, firstly, it allows us to gather data much quicker. So, we use all three of the models that I consider to be the best. Actually, we use four of them. So, we use Gemini, OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, and we use Anthropic's Claude. And then a fourth model that I use, which is a much cheaper model, allows me to scale, is called DeepSeek. It's a Chinese model. And essentially, what all four of these models allow me to do is to A, gather data 10 times, 20 times as much. B, take this data and mutate it, transmute it, change it in ways that is useful for us. And C, build beautiful interactive dashboards
Yeah.
that using this data that I just could not afford to build before. I knew what the end result looked like in my mind, but I did not have the ability to build it because it would cost, tens or of thousands of dollars, and no one's paying for Location Magic. It's free. It's always meant to be free. So I couldn't afford to, pay a dashboarding team and an interactive dashboarding team tens of thousands of dollars to build it. Now I don't do any of those things. I mean, I pay $20 a month for a application server. I pay $20 a month for a code space. And then I pay $20 a month for each of these three softwares that I just mentioned, and maybe $10 a month for DeepSeek, the Chinese model. So altogether, my cost is, maybe $120, $130. And for that, I have a web server. It has lots of dashboards. It's very sexy. It has incredible information about, different cities and stuff like that. I haven't published it openly yet. There's people inside our company and friends that we know that are looking at it. So I'm getting ready to basically publish that as a Wikipedia of real estate data science, first for multifamily and single family, and then sort of go from there and add things based on people's feedback. And so these are things that are so powerful, so insane that
Yeah.
most people, the first thing I know when I publish it will be, why aren't you selling this? Like, where's the subscription? Where's the upsell? And the answer is, I don't want any subscription or upsell. I just want to give this away. Why in your God's mind would you give something like this away, right? And the answer is, not everything is based on money. I think that some of it is based on community. Some of it
Yeah.
is based on brand development. You do get brand development, and that helps you find accredited investors that understands who we are and what we do and why we're different. So there are some branding benefits, and they're pretty solid. So that I'm able to do that now by simply talking with now that I have my infrastructure, my database stuff, all these LLMs set up to do vibe coding. Often I'm just basically having a conversation with one of these agents on my phone, and
Mm-hmm.
the conversation might last 20 or 30 or 40 minutes, and at the end of that, I've basically in my mind already built a full-on app and talked about all the data sources and basically clicked send using a document called a PRD or an MD file.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started an agent working on it. When I wake up in the morning, it's usually done. It never works the first time. Just so you know, 100% of my apps have been disasters in their first version, but another 1 or 2 hours of conversation and they start to work, and another 1 or 2 hours of conversation and they're getting pretty good. And then refinements happen as people give me feedback, and version 2, version 3 of them are pretty insanely good. Um, and so being able to do this for data science is incredible. But then being able to do this for my company is absolutely mind blowing, because we are now able to, as a small company, do things that we have no business doing. I mean, it's just shockingly good, right? Stunningly good. And I know this is a podcast, so in a podcast, you typically would not, share screen. But if you're okay, I'll for a
Yeah.
second share screen for those of you that are watching the podcast. So I'm going to click on send request, right? And for a small company to build this kind of dashboard for each of our properties, I don't know of a single syndicator, mid-sized syndicator in America, not the people that have 50,000 units, but the people that have 2,000 or 1,000, that has built anything like this, not even close. This is a dashboard that gives me insane amounts of information on my properties.
Yeah.
This is a dashboard that gives Kimberly, my asset manager, Brad and Mike, my asset analysts, insane amounts of information on every single property. And what you're seeing is about 10% of the dashboard, right? All of this was built by me having conversations. Now, none of it would be possible if I didn't know multifamily, right? Your 10, 15 years of experience at what's important is leverage, right? So I'm not suggesting that somebody who doesn't know anything about multifamily could build an app like this with vibe coding. It's impossible, right? But so when you can combine knowledge and experience of people that have done stuff for 10 years, and you can combine vibe coding and my background. The background helps a lot, because most people that are building vibe coding apps, they're just building them on their computer, and that is wonderful for you. Keep doing it and do more of it. But to me, I need them hosted on a server, and I need both employees and property managers and third parties to access it. It needs to be robust. It can't break. It has to have self-checking. It has to have backup. There's a version 2, a version 3, a version 4, and that requires a lot of work. So vibe coding is simultaneously very easy and also very hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And the nice thing though is that like a lot of the LLMs I've been using for since 2023, so they've got 3 years of just kind of the way I talk to it and stuff. And so then it starts to personalize, and it'll start reasoning out the things. Are you sure you want to do this? Is this what you're really asking? Oh, nope, that's not what I'm really asking. What I'm really asking is this other thing, and so the LLMs are really good at least the ones that I'm using, because I'm using primarily ChatGPT and Claude right now. I use Gemini more for like integration with my already established Google, assets and stuff. But Claude is interesting because it runs you down these different rabbit holes, and he starts to expand on some of the things the ideas that you have, and able to like, would you like me to turn this into a dashboard for you? And it's like, oh yeah. And then you look at it and you're like, holy crap, I would have never even thought of this in my own mind. And then you're like, well, now that I see it, I don't like this, I don't like that. Can you change this? And it seems to be very intuitive. So it's really good to go down a lot of these creative trains, and the things that you wish you could have done 10 years ago is now possible.
Oh yeah, absolutely possible. And one other suggestion that I would like to offer people that are either interested in vibe coding or just interested in building dashboards, because now you can actually build dashboards without even vibe coding using a feature built inside Claude called artifacts.
Mm,
Artifacts is a feature that basically is a dashboarding tool, and it can be done with common language. One thing I would strongly suggest to people is this. So when I want to vibe code, when I'm thinking an idea about something that could benefit my business, maybe it's a property management dashboard, I actually don't sit at a computer because it's very distracting. I go into my backyard, which is wonderful, beautiful backyard, and I go in there and I have I'm not even at this point talking to Claude. Claude's going to be the one that's going to be writing this program. I'm not interested in having a conversation with Claude at this point. I just go and tap the ChatGPT app and I hit the speaker button. And as I talk, as I walk, I just talk to it, and it's like random ideas. I want this, I want that. Imagine me talking to a human being, a friend. I make U-turns, I make left turns, do it this way. You know what? On second thoughts, do this, blah, blah, blah. It's a long stream of consciousness conversation that's about 5 or 6 minutes long. And I always end it with, okay, so now I've given you sort of this unstructured sort of thing. Can you please ask me 10 questions on how I can turn this into something that's truly wow?
Mm-hmm.
And then I turn on the speaker. Now it's having a conversation with me. Remember that nice speaker feature where it talks with you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So now it basically starts to ask me these questions and I respond back to those questions. I'm still walking in my backyard, but now I'm having a conversation with it. So it asks me question number one, and basically I give it whatever answer comes to my mind. Question two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. By the time it's done with the 10th question, then I say, okay, you know what? How about you write me a spec? Now, in the programming world, the word spec has a specific word. It's called a PRD, so like a product specification document sort of thing. And PRDs are very useful because they allow Claude to learn so much. So now it starts to build a PRD. And once it's built the PRD, I say, okay, when you went through this process, what were the top 10 things that came to your mind to ask me? So now it asks me another 10 questions, and I respond. Now 20, 30 minutes have passed. I'm still walking in my backyard. But now it's got a 30-page document that it's built with the vision, and it's asking me questions. And now I take that document, and then I give that document on my hosted server to Claude, because Claude can be on your computer or it can be in a hosted environment. And now when it starts to build, it's building a much, 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 much better application that I could have possibly built. And and then what I do is once the app is built, lots of times it doesn't work well, or it's got basic features. Then what I do is I bring all of the people that are in that department. Let's say it's asset management department. I'll bring my 4 people together and sit them in a room and basically hand the app to them and say, rip this apart, right? Don't try and give instructions to Claude or anything like that. Just talk. This meeting is being recorded by Zoom. Just talk, okay? And they and click and talk and basically say this doesn't work, or this should be like that. This should be a radio button. This should be a drop down. Why does this filter makes no sense because it's looking at a month? It should be looking at a year. I'd love to have a trend line over here. And why isn't there data here? Like this trend line, I should be able to mouse over it and do stuff, right? Just talk like that. Just imagine that there's a magical genie listening to everything that you're saying. Just talk and be as ridiculously, think of yourself as $100 billion company. Think you're Apple and, there's 1,000 developers listening to you. They go and do that for half an hour. I don't participate in those meetings because I tend to take those meetings over, right? And then at the end of it, all I basically say is send me the transcript. So they send me the transcript. I take the transcript and I plug it into the Claude that built the app. And it makes insane improvements.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this can happen in days. I mean, in mid-sized companies, it could never even happen. But if it could happen and we had the money, it would still take months, if not years. But now this happens in days. And if I really wanted to, I could basically do it all in one 4-hour session, right? Do the first 30 minutes in the backyard and then come in, build the app, bring the team together, do that feedback. In 4 hours, you'd have basically a functioning app that's like a version 3. And again, you connect different parts of your business together, Slack, Gmail, Asana, Zoom, all the key components of your business together, and it's doing all of these things for you. So there's just so much that you can do, not just with AI data science for tracking, real estate or determining what cities are best to invest in, but every aspect of your business. It's just absolutely eye-opening. I've never been this excited about technology, and I've been a technologist since 1989.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was the same way. I not so much on the intricate tech part of it, but I was always like, why have they not come up with this already? This is the 21st century. How are we still like doing things by hand anymore? Like this doesn't make any sense to me. And I was always thinking like there's got to be a better way to do all this stuff. One of the things in my world, because I also do retail real estate, and the CRMs, everyone's just building the same CRM with a different name on it. And it's like, well, why doesn't it have these components of email and the marketing and building the video and doing content and all of it just in a box? And yet still we get the same thing. Oh, well, you can just zap everything in. Well, what if I don't know anything about zap? Well, I don't want to keep zapping stuff in. I don't want to just build this Frankenstein machine of random stuff and then I've got 5,000 subscriptions for all these things. And now, I mean, I can just say, this is the stuff that I'm using, this is the stuff that I want to get rid of, and now I'm saving all this money because I'm not having 5,000 subscriptions to things that just do like one thing really well, you know, and it doesn't help at all. And now I'm like, so one of the things I'm working on right now is my own proprietary podcast system so that when we do a podcast and I hit stop record, it automatically pulls the MP4 out, splits the audio and video, and then does all of the editing and refinement of the audio and distributes it out to the podcast world all in one shot. So I'm working on that
Bravo.
right now. So
Yeah.
so you just
That
anything
sounds
you can
like
think of.
a great use for AI. And that I'm sure that there's 10 enhancements that you can do to those, right? You can add, you know, you can add stuff to the screen, you can add graphics, you can add animation, all kinds of stuff, and all of these things can now be automated. And you
Yeah.
might say, no, 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 AI can't automate that. No, I just think you have to be good at giving it resources. Like, for example, we use a website called Appify, apify.com. And Appify, people have built thousands or hundreds of thousands of apps that do certain specific things. For example, we're a property management company, and when we buy a property, we need to do an analysis of that property very quickly to see, to look at rent comps. What are the property's rent comps and what is out there. And you can build a Claude app to do that. But the problem is every time apartments.com changes their interface, our app breaks. So we have a Claude app that just goes to appify.com. There are 100 plus people that have built these apartments.com apps that are keeping them up to date. And we know they're keeping them up to date because they have 5-star reviews. And we basically just take their key, their API key, that's a technical thing. We take their key and we build our app based on that. And for every time they give us a rent comp, we pay them 1/10 of 1 cent. So
Yeah.
for 1,000 rent comps, we pay $1. And you might say, how do these people make money? Well, that's because they have hundreds of customers, right? And they've built the code once, and they're now every morning getting up in the morning and seeing if apartments.com has made a change. And if they fix the app, and it gets fixed for everybody. And now I can basically pay 1/10 of a cent for a rent comp, which is, I was using people in the Philippines to do this. And even with $7 an hour employees, I was spending about 100 times what I'm spending now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
And it's ultra fast, right? Because it takes, from the time the incoming property comes in, we have the rent comps within, I don't know, 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
Yeah, that's great. So I think we'll cover just a couple more things real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap up here. But how are you seeing AI, and then as far as like your target cities that you would think are more maybe not so much on the list anymore than they would have been prior to AI analysis?
I think that my criteria itself is changing, and that has nothing to do with AI. I think that I am now much more sensitive to supply than I used to be. So, my criteria today is very heavily supply based, and I'm looking at, various methodologies and methods of gathering supply. And again, I intend to give this away because I think that the software that you have to buy to get supply information is too expensive, and people should have access to something that's simpler. So supply factors a lot into it. Otherwise, it's really the same kind of stuff that we've been talking about for the last 12, 13 years. Again, as I mentioned, it's called Location Magic, and it's on our website. It's free. It's always meant to be free. There's no subscription. There's no upsell. There never will be a subscription or upsell to it. And what it does is it essentially ranks cities based on demographic criteria, population growth, job growth, income growth, home price growth, crime reduction, right? And we're adding more as we go. Like now that in the AI world, we're adding schools and other kinds of data to it to make it more robust. But supply is really the key, and supply is hard to get supply information. And what does that supply really mean? It means basically a whole bunch of people building apartments, right? So when people build apartments, it reduces rents for everyone, for
Mm-hmm.
Class A properties, for Class B properties, Class C properties, and for single family rentals. One of the most constant myths, which is a total bullshit myth, is somehow the single family rentals are not connected to the apartment market. And I hear this 1,000 times. It's just complete horseshit because essentially the rental market in the US is four components, right? Single family homes at the top, followed by Class A apartments, Class B apartments, Class C apartments. Those are the four stacks. And I suppose at the end of that, you could add a fifth stack, which is mobile home parks. There's just not a lot of those, right? So these are five stacks. They all affect each other. And when Class A inventory comes in, it's the closest to single family because single family is right above Class A. So when Class A inventory comes in, all sorts of rents go down or all sorts of rents pause and all sorts of concessions go up. It's just the single family guys are very stubborn, and because you have one single family, you don't have 10, 20, or 100 of them, you don't have the ability to gather data and say, yes, my rents went down. Most people, if I ask them this question, have your rents gone down that are single family landlords, don't even have a good answer for me. Like they might say, I don't think they've gone up. But actually, if they look at their rents have gone down $100, and they haven't even thought about that because it's just one single family or two, and they don't have enough data, and the single families might be in two different markets. So bottom line is that rents in the United States, on average, were flat in the last 12 months. Most people don't even know that,
Well,
right? And flat means that they're negative 3%. Why? Because at the very least, rent should keep up with inflation. So if inflation is 3%, rent should be 3%. That's you just staying in the same place. That's not you growing. That's you just staying in the same place. So if they're flat, they're really minus 3%, right? In Southeast markets that have huge amounts of incoming supply, rent growth has been negative in the last 12 months, all the way from -1 to -2% for some markets like Raleigh, to -5 to -10%, like some markets like Austin. So rent growth's been negative. And concessions have doubled in 24 months. So whatever concessions were being offered, let's say 1 month, 1 free month a year, today it's 2 months, 2 free months a year. They've doubled, right? So all of these affects multifamily, and there's just not enough data, but just not enough people listening to this stuff. So I'm very supply focused now, and I'm focused on how do I gather more data.
yeah, that's awesome. And I guess the last thing is like, what would you recommend someone if it's just getting started and they want to dip their toes in multifamily? Do you have any words of wisdom?
I would just simply, um, I'd say this that, and maybe this is a little self-serving. I've only come up with one quote in my life. The rest are all quotes that I've gotten from other places and I like them. This is one that I invented myself, and it says, the Bible was wrong by one letter. It is not the geek that shall inherit the earth, but not the meek that shall inherit the earth. It's the geek,
Nice,
right?
nice.
Richest man in the world, geek. Second richest, geek. Third richest, geek. The geeks are taking over the world. So I think it's time for everyone to become a bit more geeky. Everyone thinks they're data driven because they know how to use Excel. Data driven and Excel have very little in common, right? But it's a cop out where it's like, well, I have an Excel spreadsheet. I do analysis. I'm data driven. No, being data driven is a mindset, a way of looking at everything and saying, I'm going to measure this, right? And it may have nothing to do with I measure what I eat. I measure, how much I sleep. I measure everything about my life because I'm data driven, right? So I think that it's very important that for your listeners to understand that this is a mindset that you need to adopt in everything that you're doing. And that would be my advice. If you do that, whatever you're doing, real estate or something else, you'll do a better job of it.
Awesome. So if people want to know more about what you're doing, what's going on in your world, and how can people get a hold of you?
So I'm taking everything that I want to build as data or interesting insights for people and building beautiful dashboards. And all of these dashboards and all of this data is at one website, and it's multifamilyu.com. That's multifamily followed by the letter u.com/club. So that's multifamilyU.com/club. We're going to keep expanding this into a real estate community of people, a massive community of people. We're going to put in, we have single family data. Right now we have multifamily data. We've got data for some other commercial asset classes in there. And our goal is to, over time, just to keep building and building and building this information and give access to people. And all of that is, and also we present 8 webinars a year on this data. And so it's at multifamily followed by the letter u.com/club. 1% of the people that are in this club become investors with us, and that's what we get out of it. But otherwise, it's just free and meant to be free.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate the giving heart that you have and your ability to give back some huge benefits to the audience and to the world. And I think at the end of the day, when we're breathing our last breath, that's the best thing that we can do, right?
Yep, yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Neal, we appreciate you being here today and wish you all the best.
Thanks so much for having me on the podcast.